So his remarks are targeted to various leaders in the country, but specifically here, of course, going by the language that he is using, he is trying to speak to various individuals within the central part of Kenya. But it is a manifestation of realpolitik.
Senator, the president says there are individuals who are trying to step on his development agenda. As a matter of fact, he says what he wants is to leave a Kenya that is peaceful. Looking from that exact backyard, who and why would someone, from your end and what you see, who and why would someone try to step on the plans by the president to ensure A, we have peace in the country, and B, there's development in the country?
Thank you, but before I comment, allow me first to correct something. The president did not say he is a small boy. That is not the correct translation of that word. He said he is not a person who is uncircumcised, meaning he was quite unhappy with some people in our region. He used a very deep word, which has a lot of connotation in our region. Be that as it may.
What connotation does it have, sir, for the sake of individuals who may not speak that particular language, me included?
Well, it means that he's not a pushover, he's not a person you can come and abuse or a person you can disrespect. That is what that term means. He did not say he's a small boy. If he meant a small boy, he would have said Kamwana. Kamwana means a small boy, but he means a fairly word that meant he was quite unhappy. And from where I sit, I think the president does not want Kenya to be engaged in a cycle of permanent campaigns. You start an election in 2013, that cycle does not end with the election. It continues continuously up to 2022. I think that's very unfair for Kenyans. He was telling politicians, members of parliament, or even any other politician, stop politicking from morning up to evening. You need to put more effort towards solving the problems which are affecting our people, particularly those of us who come from his backyard.
But Senator, there are those who would ask, how does politicking prevent President Uhuru Kenyatta from delivering development across the country?
In several ways. Number one, you'll find that we members of parliament, those who may wish to campaign, they are going to political rallies instead of being at home, probably dealing with issues of CDF. You know, CDF is a very important fund which members of parliament do oversight. Instead of doing such issues which touch on our wananchi, people are busy going out to political rallies, maybe also failing to go to parliament and making laws, putting more effort towards attending political rallies. So, you know, a member of parliament for 3 roles, I think politicians.
The reaction of Deputy President, the Deputy President, I also believe that you trusted me to be your deputy. I'm here today because you gave me a chance out of millions of Kenyans, to which I am grateful. Thank you for making me the person that I am. But there are those who would say the sentiments of the president, the sentiments of the deputy president, and specific words that the president said indicate a rift within Jubilee. And a big one at that.
Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you, my friend from Murang'a, the Senator of Murang'a, and Dr. Bigambo. Let me just hit it the way it is, without beating about the bush. The president is telling Ruto, you are just too much. He's switching into his language so that he could say it properly. Ruto has been undermining the president. He has been speaking on a different script. And now he's going to realize that the power of the presidency is not something you can joke with. He's telling Ruto, enough is enough. You have undermined me enough. I am the president of this country. You toe the line. You don't toe the line, you will see.
But surely, if you wanted, like you say, if that message was meant for Deputy President William Ruto, I am curious about why the president would decide to say this.
It doesn't mean that every project he opens or he commissions, that is development. Nimewaletea problem nini development. Nimewafungulia nini barabara. What the heck is this? Those are government projects, that's taxpayers' money. He should not take credit on it, and is doing that in bad faith by undermining the president.
What do you mean he's doing that in bad faith? He's the deputy president.
Of course,
as you rightly put it. Hold on,
he's politicking. Every time he's abusing. Every time he's abusing. Oh, sorry.
Hold on. So as you rightly put it, these are government projects. He is a government official. What is wrong in him launching some of these projects that you're talking about?
Why is he using those projects to abuse people like Raila? Why is he using those projects to abuse other Kenyans? If the president is telling the nation that I want all of you to work in the same script, we want peace, we want legacy, we don't want tribalism. And the following day, Ruto is talking, oh, why is he talking to Raila? Come on, we are not children. Ruto should toe the line.
Mheshimiwa Nyamita, if you can hear me, your quick reaction to the president's sentiments. Okay, I understand you don't have him. But there was a reaction from quote-unquote Team Tanga Tanga on what the president had to say. Could you listen into that a little bit?
Hata Uhuru wako kasirika. Shida ni moja. Na nilikataza Uhuru nikamwambia usishikane na mtu mwenye haendi kanisa. Nilisema mapema. Usishikane na mtu mwenye nyinyi wenyewe mlituambia anaenda kwa waganga. Nyinyi wenyewe ndio mlituambia anaenda kwa waganga. Hatuko tunajua. Nyinyi mnajua nyinyi wananchi. Sio ndio mlituambia yeye mtu anaenda kwa waganga. Sasa Uhuru anakuja ameshikana na mtu haendi kanisa. Sasa anataka kubomoa ile amani ya kwanza ile nzuri. Analeta amani nyingine hapa haieleweki. Na huyo mtu akienda kwa nyumba yote lazima hiyo nyumba ibomoke.
Kama Jubilee tumekaa vizuri, huyu mnyama ameingia, ameleta shida tena. So what we shall do is we shall continue following what our president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has told us, which is to do development.
Usikia rais ako na hasira ni kwa sababu ya matatizo ambayo yanakumbwa hawa wa Kenya.
Mimi nauliza pia rais wetu, usiwe mtu ya hasira. Wewe ndio baba yetu. Ukikasirika, nyumba itaharibika.
Tunaomba rais wetu, ukikasirika, nyumba pia itaharibika. And we shall follow our president and do what he has asked us to do, that is development projects. There are allegations there that are leveled against, quote-unquote, the handshake. And former Prime Minister Raila Odinga as well. Javas, that reaction by individuals from the Tanga Tanga group, your quick reaction?
Well, I would say that they are being careful with the way they're trying to interpret the president's language and character yesterday, trying to revise the president's remarks and approach during the Corona conference. Look, the other thing that we also need to reflect on, looking at the interpretation of various leaders, looking at the president's remarks, and trying to look at the president's own history, even before he became president, you'd realize that President Kenyatta, anytime he was angered by an issue, he would switch to his native language. You remember even when he was Deputy Prime Minister, when he had issues with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, he would speak to the natives of central Kenya, addressing Raila Odinga, but in the Gikuyu language. The same thing happened yesterday. At times, and appreciating that we are in Africa, we need to take note that there is a long adage that says, when you are speaking of boils when a leper is around, you need to be very careful. So that brings that whole point there. The instrumentation of political language directed at to a certain quarter, yet it is not that particular quarter to which the sentiments are directed. So here it's a question of just being politically smart. Now look, the other thing is this. Look at the president's even body language yesterday. He did not make direct eye contact with the deputy president, yet the deputy president was making every effort to look at the president. And we know very well that, for example, during the first term, the president and the deputy president would have lots of eye contact during such public fora and when he's delivering his remarks, etc., and referring to one another as brother. And that is why other observers have said that while the president was speaking to various legislators from central Kenya, those remarks were not particularly aimed at the leaders or the legislators from central Kenya, but to the higher power, political power that is trying to reorganize the politics or the politicians who are a bit ambitious and are trying to look at politics in Kenya post Uhuru Kenyatta presidency.
Javas, let's talk about that development aspect, because the president says there are people who are trying to hinder his development projects. And there are analysts who seem to think that he was addressing Deputy President William Ruto. But there are those who also say, a couple of months ago, we also saw some leaders from Central lamenting about the level of development in their area, basically pointing an accusing finger at President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying he's not initiated enough projects in the region. And while you speak about Deputy President William Ruto, that there was no eye contact, I mean, after he was done, he went back, sat down, had started having a conversation with the Deputy President. Are we reading too much into this?
Well, it's not about reading too much, but you'd see that their relations yesterday, the only time, of course, they even spoke was when the Deputy President arrived, and later on when the Deputy President was signaling him to hand over the title deed. But much of the President's remarks, even at the demonstrable effort by the Deputy President to get the President's eye contact when he was delivering his remarks, bore no fruit. The other thing is this. When you look at the architecture of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, it actually throws cold water on the remarks or lamentations of various politicians who said that the President is not commencing or rather initiating various development projects in the central region. Look, each member of the National Assembly has got the National Government Constituency Development Fund, which can do various development or initiate various development projects within the constituency. We have got the county governments with the various projects that can be initiated under the functions of the county government. And then, of course, we've got the functions under the national government. All this together is what is aimed at bringing national development across all the 47 counties. So it is actually improper for a particular legislator to lament or blame the president for not initiating or directing development projects in the central region. The other thing is this. The same legislators, and I agree with Senator Kangata, the same legislators who are lamenting and pointing accusatory fingers at the president are the same legislators who are moving up and down the country on various political agenda and not attending to the development interests within their own constituencies. So I think it's a question of speaking with too much water in the mouth on the part of those legislators.
Senator, there are those who say part of the reason why the president was very upset is because this is seen as quote-unquote homegrown opposition. These are people from his own backyard. They're individuals who have been speaking up against the president. They're individuals who've been campaigning against his directive. And that is why probably the president was very upset, because these are quote-unquote his own people. This is homegrown. These are people who essentially should walk the same talk with the president.
Well, the truth is, I am not really aware of any person who has directly attacked the president from our region. I think the bone of contention, I suspect, has something to do as to whether one should continue, let's say, pushing agenda of a certain politician or not as of now, particularly when the president had said, no, you wait until 2022. That element of our region and the politics of our region, it is true. There is a major fight over the political soul of the people of Mount Kenya region. For the first time, we are having a situation where our region does not have a presumptive political kingpin. Remember, this politics of ethnicity commenced in the year 1992. We had two major politicians in our region. We had Mr. Moi Kibaki, the immediate former vice president, and also Mr. Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba from Murang'a County. They were major politicians from our region, the two major kingpin. They went almost 50-50, although Matiba had a slight advantage over Kibaki in our region. Come 1997, Matiba did not vie, and therefore the entire community rallied behind President Moi Kibaki. Come the year 2002, Uhuru Kenyatta emerged. He became another kingpin of our region together with Moi Kibaki, although Moi Kibaki had slightly higher percentage of political votes in our region. Come the year 2007, the entire community rallied behind Mwai Kibaki. That happened again in the year 2002. Upon Mr. Kibaki exiting the political stage, Uhuru Kenyatta took over in the year 2013 and 2017. But you can tell, since 1992, there would be like two major politicians from our region. Once this one exits, the other one takes over. We are now heading into a situation where we do not have any what we call heir apparent after exit of our dear President Uhuru Kenyatta. So there's a question as to who is going to inherit that political bloc. There are, of course, then you find some people trying now to take up that position. Of course, there is a school of thought which argues, no, it is unfair for one to make such kind of an effort, because what happens, you now make the current president to lose some leverage in that region. When you try to push him off, you now make him fairly vulnerable, which is not very desirable, and therefore there is a form of a pushback, so that you allow the president to continue doing his work until he decides now probably to give the community a certain direction, a certain political direction. So you find some politicians who are angling now to become the next political kingpin in our region. They seem to be sending signals which in a way they are intended to delegitimize our president in our region. When you hear people saying, oh, the president has not done work in our region, the whole rationale, the whole aim is to delegitimize our president in our region, so that those politicians can come up and probably now become the next regional kingpins in our region. So of course, the president is a politician. He has to fight back. If he allows such kind of a scenario to happen, then he will then lack a region, what we call a base. And that, to me, no politician would want such kind of a scenario. Remember, Uhuru Kenyatta became a kingpin after he was given that mantle by Mwai Kibaki. Practically speaking, of course, there was no official ceremony, but practically speaking, it appears you have to allow the kingpin to exit in a graceful manner, as opposed to come and forcefully grab from him. So I think that is the pushback I'm seeing from our dear president from a practical point of view.
It's interesting that you say there is no kingpin from the region, because then that presents the question, what is the fate of President Uhuru Kenyatta come after 2022? What sort of legacy is he going to leave? And I listened into him and he was saying past 2022, he wants to leave a peaceful nation. Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko also just did allude to the fact that we have a very young president. Perhaps it is not time to send him home just as yet. So allow me to take a break on that note. I'll get the reaction, Professor, your reaction from town. I've not ignored you. We're taking a short break here on The Big Story. We'll come back and start this conversation off with Professor from our I&M studio. Stay with us.